Welcome back. We're here at the home of Norm and Barb Springs in beautiful Grand Haven, and you're watching Where Do We Go From Here? And I'm your host, Kimon Kotos. And we're trying to talk a little bit about not just the landscape, but the beauty of nature and what inspires people to be around the Great Lakes. We have a number of great craftsmen and painters and writers and people who come just to relax and play and enjoy the Great Lakes. But Barbara, I want to talk to you a little bit about your experiences traveling with Norm, but also just trying to capture the essence of what makes the Great Lakes a special place to be.
Okay, I'm friends with a lot of artists here in Grand Haven, the Lakeland artists, painters, and I've done a little dabbling myself. Well, I put a painting of a tern flying over Lake Michigan on my website, and I got a note, very polite note, someone wanting to use the painting on their motorcycle speedometer because it had this great feeling of freedom, and it was such a lovely, polite note that I said, sure, go ahead. It was nice that they even asked. You know, people can steal your art off of the internet and not say a word.
But there are probably a number of songs and things, not only in Native American culture, but things that have inspired people being in the Great Lakes. Is that something that inspired you to write your poetry as well as people you've met because of that?
Oh, sure. It's the whole area, the sand dunes, the ice. You know, I've written about all of those things. So the ideas in here kind of spill into the poetry. The more I know that for fact, the more I have to build on. I went to an educational conference, and then someone wrote and said, well, I like the way your nature poetry is. You know, they thought this would be a good educational thing, too, as well as the dynamic Great Lakes.
Are there things that you could say to those who out there who just, you know, relish their experiences in their life here in the Great Lakes, that they should take the time to try to write their thoughts out and get to know other authors and, you know, take the time to express their feelings?
Oh, yes. I think people can just go and sit quietly in either on the beach or the woods, and then thoughts will come to them. It is a very spiritual place to be. Listen to the birds and the wind and the flowers. On my website, I put up the first thing that comes up in the sand dunes. I was looking for flowers, but surprisingly, it was the scarlet cup mushroom, and I took a picture and put that on my blog. I thought people would like to see that early spring.
Well, let us know what your blog is or your website, and so how people can contact you, learn more about your work, and so you want to tell us how people can reach you.
Okay, the Dynamic Great Lakes blog. I've got two, and the Dynamic Great Lakes. You could type either of those in, and so I really don't give out my email address.
Okay. Nobody knows that. Is it possible that you could give us a little rendition or a little piece from one of your books?
Sure.
Reading.
Okay. I just pick one at
Go ahead and look at the camera if you want to.
At random. Before the storm, seagulls slide sideways on airstreams, whitecaps boil on deep marine blue, curdled clouds crown the horizon. The house creaks. Lights shift as ultramarine turns gunmetal gray. The air feels heavy, dense, then large drops spatter, stream down window panes. Beach grasses grip the sodden sands. The lake receives its prodigal fresh water, never asking where it's been. After the storm, cold waves roll in slowly. High above a skull-white moon, Below, silent sturgeon moves to ancient rhythms.
That's beautiful. Well, Norm, is there anything else you want to remind people about in terms of appreciating the whole fishing experience and why you want them to go out and enjoy the Great Lakes?
Well, I definitely think they ought to take a young person fishing, because they really appreciate fishing once they get started, but somebody has to take them in order for them to appreciate it. That's one thing they can do, and of course then practice conservation when they are fishing. Don't overfish a particular species. And as I mentioned, taking a young person fishing is an excellent way to get them started in fishing, and something that's worthwhile instead of mischief. And once you learn how to fish, it's something that, especially if they catch some, they'll really enjoy doing that the rest of their life. But you do have to be patient with young people, and be careful that you don't overdo it so that they don't lose interest in fishing. But that's one of the main things that I would suggest that all fishermen do, and they might even do it with hunting as well. But take a young person and show them how to fish.
Well, definitely that sharing father to son and even father daughter. I'm sure there's father daughter combinations, but spending time with your kids and teaching them the lessons of why nature is so precious, and respect those creatures and those animals and birds that we live with that so often we take for granted.
Yeah. I take my own grandson fishing now. We have two daughters, and of course they're adults, but I took them fishing when they were younger, and there's fish on the wall. The larger one is caught by the youngest of the two, and the one up above on the plaque that's colored out, that's a coho. That was way back when, but that was caught by one of our oldest daughter, Pam. And so anyhow, they got started, and their kids are into that as well.
Well, I notice here in your home, and we haven't talked much about it, that you've got some antlers from elk and a variety of different things. We've got some respect for nature here in your house is just so apparent, and it's lovely. Can you tell us a little bit about some of your adventures, also with other things from deer to birds and other things of that nature?
Well, I used to have bird dogs, and we used to do a lot of bird hunting, and I also big game hunt. I have shot several elk, a couple of them with a bow and arrow, and I've shot a lot of deer with a bow and arrow, and it's a difficult sport to learn to do right, and if you learn how to do it right, it's a very enjoyable thing to do. But I also use a gun. I have two large elk heads, too large for this house, that are mounted down at the Elks Club in Grand Haven, and they appreciate the fact that I have loaned them to them.
Well, I'd like to thank Norm and Barb Springs for being here today and sharing their experiences and their love of nature, as well as the fishing experience with us. And thank you very much, Norm, and thank you, Barbara. And we're going to go out with Barbara doing another piece of poetry that she wrote, and we hope you enjoyed the experience together with us.
Okay, this is from my book, The Wilderness Within. I was sitting on a stream bank watching Norm fish for trout, and I wrote this poem while I was just sitting out in nature. It's called Circuits. Light from a star that died shines out from jade green eyes. A salmon tail fans streambed stones and dark silt swirls. Millennia ago a star spurt fire, and now a constellation of eggs and white melt spiral down in black water. Fishbone lattices litter the stream that speaks of glaciers and pearls. Frost flowers bloom on the cut bank, while embryos curl in sweet, cold sleep below.